Waukeen is the goddess of trade and wealth. Her faith looks to inject money into many different ventures and businesses throughout Faerûn to further the growth of society. I'm Ben Dignan, and welcome once again to Religion in the Realms. Titles. Waukeen goes by the following titles: Liberty's Maiden, Merchant's Friend, Coin Maiden, and Our Lady of Gold. Waukeen has no known alias. Portfolios and domains. Waukeen holds the portfolios of trade, money, and wealth. Her suggested domains for 5th edition are knowledge and trickery, appearance and manifestations. Waukeen is described as a blonde human woman adorned in fine garments. By her feet are 2 golden lions. Her preferred weapon is a cloud of coins. This cloud mechanically does the damage of nunchaku in the 3rd edition game. Innate to this cloud are the evil outsider Bane and impact qualities with a +5 bonus to attack and damage. Waukeen's avatar has a similar description to Waukeen herself. The avatar is a young human woman with long hair and eyes that are both gold in color. Her hair is lustrous and the gown she wears is of the richest material. The gown sports strips of precious metal studded with precious gems. Around her is a cloak made of linked coin. Other parts of her outfit is a sash of cloth of gold and golden boots laced with linked pearls. Waukeen has 3 known manifestations. First, appearing out of nowhere as a stream of gold coins that spiral and wind their way around a creature or object Waukeen wants to bring attention to. After the manifestation is complete, the coins fall to the ground where they can be collected. Waukeenar are quick to grab such coins before anyone else. These coins are seen by them to be, quote, the divine essence of the goddess. Second is the pair of golden eyes that appear out of the darkness. These eyes seem insubstantial. This manifestation is strictly limited to dreams. Finally, Waukeen may speak to her devotees as they go about their business telepathically. Her voice is said to be one, quote, that shines like gold. Waukeen makes use of the following creatures to communicate her approval, disapproval, or aid her mortal followers: Faerûnmach and Plumach Romani, Palomino horses, golden cats, golden lions, lock lurkers, and eagles that are typically gold in plumage. Given the strong association between the Romani and the Outlands, it may be that Waukeen is no longer served by these creatures. I will discuss this further in the Personal Realms section later. Waukeen can also manifest items on the prime material to reward her mortal followers. Coin where it is least likely to be found, like in road tracks, daffodils, citrines, pyrite, and gold nuggets. Abilities. The 1st edition Forgotten Realms box set gives Waukeen the rank of a lesser goddess. The 2nd edition Forgotten Realms box set mentions that Waukeen held the rank of an intermediate power before her disappearance during the Time of Troubles. This increase in rank between these 2 editions seems to be a retcon in my opinion. Considering the 1st edition box set is set in 1357 Dale Reckoning, a year before the Time of Troubles, which brought the setting forward into 2nd edition. As she was absent, still following the Time of Troubles, Waukeen lost a substantial amount of followers. After her return, 3rd edition sources assign her the rank of a lesser power. In 4th edition, her divine rank is just God. The rank of God in 4th edition's divine hierarchy is the middling rank in between Exarch and Greater God. The divine hierarchy has been changed once again in 5th edition. Though in 5th edition we have only few ranks assigned to any gods, I feel safe in the assumption that Waukeen holds the rank of a lesser goddess in this present edition's hierarchy. Waukeen has a stat block in 3rd edition's Faiths and Avatars. That stat block is both long and complex, so I have only picked out a few elements to highlight. Since she is a lesser goddess, Waukeen may choose to take a 10 on any check she makes. Any roll of a 1 on an attack or saving throw is treated normally, rather than as an automatic failure. Waukeen can extend her senses out from her to a maximum distance of 7 miles, which is approximately 11 kilometers. She can sense out from any of her worshippers' holy objects, places of worship, or a location where her name or titles were spoken in the last hour to the same distance. Waukeen can split the focus of her senses between 5 locations at once. She can block the senses of any deity who holds the same divine rank or less from sensing 2 remote locations for up to 7 hours. Waukeen has a portfolio sense that immediately grants her the knowledge of any commercial agreement, contract, or the like that affects 500 people or more. Along with that, she immediately learns of the destruction or theft of commercial property that affects 500 people or more. Waukeen can create any magic item that provides rest, defense, or aids in the procurement of information so long as that item costs 30,000 gold pieces or less. Waukeen has an avatar stat block in 2nd edition's Faiths and Avatars. Just know that the following information includes terms from 2nd edition that were not brought forward in the 5th edition. Waukeen's avatar can cast spells from any school and any sphere of magic. The avatar may levitate and walk on air at will. They can cast out a stream of gold coin once per round. Waukeen may do this to either attack a target dealing bludgeoning damage or to shower people with wealth. The gold coin she casts out is permanent. Waukeen's avatar can spit out molten gold. The cooled and hardened gold can be collected afterwards. She can also manifest a flame strike-like ability, which manifests as flame mixed with a rotating helix of gold coins. These gold coins disappear after the avatar uses this ability. Finally, the avatar is immune to electrical shock, charm, and illusions. Personal history. Waukeen is said to be a relatively new member of the Faerûnian Pantheon. As far as I am aware, no exact year is given for Waukeen's emergence as a goddess. The 1st edition box set says, quote, "No older in her worship than Tyr." We know that Tyr entered into the Faerûnian Pantheon in negative 247 Dale Reckoning. In 1358 Dale Reckoning, Waukeen fell down to the surface of Toril along with the other gods of the Faerûnian Pantheon, save Helm, at the start of the Time of Troubles. During her short stay on the surface of Faerûn, no mortal encountered her. Much like the other deities, Waukeen adamantly pursued a way back to her divine realm. Should she return to the Outer Planes, Waukeen felt capable in developing a plan to disentangle the mess the Time of Troubles had caused. As chance would have it, the first god she ran into on the Prime Material was Lyra. Lyra and Waukeen were and still are long-standing allies and friends. Traveling together, the 2 goddesses reached the Celestial Staircase above Shadowdale. Just as an aside, the Celestial Staircase is a term specific to the realms for the planar pathway called the Infinite Staircase, just one of many different planar pathways in the multiverse. Lyra and Waukeen were the first to attempt the Celestial Staircase even before Mystra. Waukeen intended on bribing Helm, as Helm was on the Celestial Staircase guarding any other gods from trying to reach the Outer Planes. Waukeen's plan was to offer Helm whatever it was he desired. And indeed, only a quarter of the way up the staircase, the 2 goddesses were halted by Helm. Try as she might, Helm refused every bribe Waukeen put forward. Lyra and Waukeen retreated back down and hid in the Cormanthor forest. There Waukeen came up with a complex plan. She would call upon her contacts to smuggle her off of Faerûn and into the Outer Planes. rather than go straight to the Outlands and be stopped, no doubt. Waukeen intended to use a long route through the lower outer planes to reach the Outlands. Waukeen contacted a god from another crystal sphere called Celestian. Celestian is a god of stars and planar travel from the Greyhawk setting. Waukeen called in a favor Celestian owed her. There's one sticking point. Waukeen was not able to reach the plains because Ao was blocking any deific entity from getting to the plains. Since Waukeen was an avatar, she was able to take her divinity and give it to Lyra for safekeeping. Waukeen was reduced to a very powerful and knowledgeable human. Celestian refused to bring Lyra along due to his lack of familiarity with the goddess of joy. Celestian then brought Waukeen to the astral plane. Before Waukeen left realm space, she had Lyra make a promise to her. Until Waukeen returned, Lyra was to guard both Waukeen's divine portfolios and power. On the astral plane, Waukeen met with the minions of a demon lord of the abyss, Grast. Accompanying these minions, Waukeen was brought to the abyss to meet with Grast. Grast was one of many underworld connections Waukeen had made in the past. According to 2nd edition's Faiths and Avatars, Waukeen had previously agreed with Grast to exchange a substantial amount of treasure in exchange for the locations of redoubts out among the plains and prime material where she might avoid Ao's notice, or according to the 2nd edition module, for duty and deity. Waukeen offered to Grast the locations of hidden treasure out among the plains, along with information about the financial dealings of his rival demon lords. Grast instead scrapped the deal once Waukeen was in front of him and she was taken prisoner. With Waukeen prisoner, Grast thought he'd extract all the secrets about obtaining wealth from her. During Waukeen's imprisonment, she was transported continuously through Grast's 3 layers of the abyss. The demon lord and Waukeen occasionally met for tea, though these meetings doubled as interrogations. Waukeen did manage to break free for a brief time, only for resident demons to turn Waukeen back over to Grast. These demons feared the demon lord's wrath to such an extent that they refused Waukeen's substantial bribes. Meanwhile, down on the prime material, Waukeen's followers desperately attempted to determine her whereabouts. Scrying and divinations on the clergy's part either failed to work or gave strange readings given Waukeen's current state. Some even went mad as they glimpsed the denizens and environs of the abyss. With Waukeen's disappearance during the Time of Troubles, she was thought to be dead. Her clergy and clerics no longer received the needed divine power to cast their spells. Some left during this period to pursue other faiths. Lyra saw the confusion and crumbling of Waukeen's faith and felt it was time to intervene. In 1365 DR, a prophet of Lyra appeared before the Waukeenar with a proclamation. Now, what proclamation was given differs on what source you refer to. The 2nd edition Forgotten Realms box set says the proclamation was that Waukeen was dead and she had been banished from realm space altogether. The one I defer to, 2nd edition's Faiths and Avatars, which was published later, says the proclamation from Lyra's prophet was there was no indication of Waukeen in her divine realm, nor indication Waukeen was soon to return. Rather, the Waukeenar themselves assumed the worst and decided their patron goddess had perished. This prophet was magically transported by Lyra to each of Waukeen's temples to deliver this message. In Waukeen's stead, Lyra was to preside over Waukeen's portfolios. Many of Waukeen's faith made the transition and began worshipping Lyra, or instead accepted Lyra as the regent over Waukeen's portfolios, still holding out that Waukeen might return. Many of Waukeen's places of worship were converted to Lyra's worship. Other Waukeenar refused Lyra and moved on to other deities like Lathander, Bashaba, Taimora, or Shandakul. The Waukeenar who did not give themselves fully over to Lyra were still permitted to wear their old vestments. Lyra was never comfortable holding the portfolios of Waukeen. Given her jovial and free-spirited disposition, Understandably, she was frustrated at holding portfolios that called for a degree of responsibility and control. The temptation was there to claim these portfolios for herself, but as history shows, Lyra was true to her word. Waukeen's absence during this period came to be known as the Enter Deum of Waukeen. As played out in the 2nd edition adventure module for Duty and Deity, Waukeen was rescued from the abyss by a group of unnamed adventurers in 1371 Dale Reckoning. The impetus for the adventure comes when a priestess at Goldspires, Waukeen's primary temple on Faerûn, received convoluted and confusing dreams. The Holy Coin, who presides at Goldspires and is the pontiff for the Waukeenar faith, divined at this time that these dreams were connected to Waukeen's whereabouts. From there, the Holy Coin recruited the unnamed adventurers who went on to rescue Waukeen. Waukeen returned to the Outlands, reclaimed her divinity from Lyra, and took up her former spot in the Faerûnian Pantheon. In the end, some people did not believe it was truly Waukeen who had returned. Worse still, others thought Waukeen had returned with the assistance of fiends after making deals with said fiends. To this day, Waukeen aspires to get her revenge against Grast. To my knowledge, she has not achieved this as of yet. Personality. Waukeen is a neutrally aligned goddess. In the alternative alignment system used in 4th edition, she is an unaligned goddess. Waukeen is lively and resplendent. She loves wealth, not for greed's sake. Rather, she takes comfort in the freedom, possibilities, and comforts that wealth provides. She advocates for the development and increase in trade. Waukeen is a spirited haggler who adores wheeling and dealing in a marketplace setting. Some of her faithful are adamant that they recognize her leaving their stall or shop shortly after an energetic exchange. In these stories, Waukeen always has the deal fall in her favor, but she does not leave the other party shortchanged. Waukeen likes to think outside the box and is persistent in solving any problem in front of her. However, this persistence often leads to stubbornness and selfishness. As much as she presides over deals done legally and above board, she presides over deals and bargains made under the table as well. These last few traits cause her past predicament with Grast. Personal realms. In the Great Wheel cosmological model used in 1st edition, 2nd edition, and is the assumed default model for 5th edition Forgotten Realms, Waukeen may reside on one of 3 outer planes. I cannot say it for certain, since no 5th edition source or novel during the present period states as such. In 2nd edition sources, Waukeen resides on the true neutral outer plane of the Outlands. As you will see in later editions, Waukeen came to dwell in dominions or planes where Sunni or a Monitor presided, though both 3rd edition and 4th edition use their own cosmologies different from the Great Wheel. It may be that Waukeen resides on the Outlands, on the chaotic good outer plane of Arborea, or the lawful neutral plane of Mechanus presently. What I will do is ascribe what is mentioned about Waukeen's realm in the Outlands presented in 2nd edition sources. I will note for later cosmologies how planes and dominions might fit into the Great Wheel. It is worth noting that there is no mention of Waukeen's realm in the recent Sigil and the Outlands supplement in the 5th edition Planescape box set. However, I don't feel that confirms anything for us, unfortunately. The Outlands also is referred to as the concordant opposition or the concordant opposition of the Outlands. It is the true neutral outer plane that is coterminous with every other outer plane. Unlike most outer planes, the Outlands has no layers. It is just one sprawling plane. Waukeen's divine realm on the Outlands is called the Marketplace Eternal. The Outlands is the center of the outer planes. Here, all the outer planes connect with the Outlands, and the Outlands serve as a neutral meeting ground. All sorts of planar beings walk openly in the Outlands, not bound to the different rules of the different planes that may restrict them as an outsider. Much of the wild terrain outside of several deific realms that dot the Outlands is varied and reminiscent of the terrain types found on prime-material worlds. In the middle of the Outlands is a massive spire visible to all in the Outlands, and above this spire rests Sigil, the City of Doors. As one moves closer to the spire, powerful magical abilities begin to be neutralized. At the base of the spire, even deific powers cease. This great spire is regarded by some to be the axle around which all the outer planes spin. At the periphery of the Outlands are 16 gate towns or portal towns, which all house a portal to the respective outer plane. The deific realms of true neutral deities and/or deities of scholarship or nature are typically found in the Outlands. Petitioners in the Outlands look much like they did in their mortal lives, with next to no change in their outward appearance or disposition. I believe it is fair to say that this is true for Waukeen's petitioners, given Waukeen is a true neutral goddess and her realm is frankly familiar to the real world. The Marketplace Eternal is massive in scope. As its name suggests, this marketplace is made up of endless stalls, tent vendors, gambling dens, and charlatans hawking their wares spread out across miles in every direction. It may seem a chaotic entanglement to any newcomer. One stall may be in one location one day only to be in another place the next. Generally, categories of items are sold within a region of the marketplace. Weapons are sold in one general area of the marketplace, while textiles are sold in another general area. Just as a couple of examples. The Marketplace Eternal is not only Waukeen's realm, but a realm shared by 4 deities with similar portfolios over wealth and trade. Included alongside Waukeen are Shannare or Shanair of Kryn, aka the World of Dragonlance, Zilkis of Oerth, or the Greyhawk setting, and Sarah of Abrinus or Abernus, the Birthright setting. From there, each deity has a corner of the Marketplace Eternal to call their own. Waukeen's quarter is called the House of Barter. Here Waukeen resides in her huge golden palace. Within it can be found a permanent portal that connects to Lyra's realm of Brightwater on the plane of Arborea. In the World Tree cosmological model used for 3rd edition Forgotten Realms, Waukeen resides on the plane of Brightwater. This plane is presided over by Suni. Brightwater isn't an urban center as it is described in the Great Wheel. Rather, it is an idyllic and comfortable realm of cottages and manors. The plane still carries the same aura of excitement, good fun, and beauty. Creatures who inhabit Brightwater include those angels in service to the 5 resident goddesses. Then there are also the Bakai. Bakai are celestial creatures who are known for their revels and hedonistic behaviors. They have some beast-like qualities that place them halfway between humanoid and satyr. The Bakai on Brightwater are less destructive than some of their counterparts, but by no means less jubilant. The petitioners of Brightwater exist on the cusp of normal humanity and unbridled bestial wants. These hedonists exist in a state of eternal revelry. At the center of Brightwater is Waukeen's realm, which is also called the Marketplace Eternal in this cosmological model. Unlike the other divine realms are active with revelry, the Marketplace Eternal is a commercial center. Throughout all hours of the day, a wide array of items are sold. It is an active realm that might not be dedicated to pleasure, but it contains passionate visitors and petitioners devoted to trade. If you wish to have Waukeen reside in Brightwater in the Great Wheel, it isn't terribly hard to make that so. Brightwater is a realm found on the chaotic good outer plane of Arborea in the Great Wheel. I recommend listening to either my episode on Lyra or Suni, where I discuss Brightwater and the Great Wheel. Within the World Axis cosmological model used in 4th edition, Waukeen resides on the dominion of the Eternal Sun. Here, a Monitor presides as the superior power. The Eternal Sun is a realm of thriving petitioners carrying out their afterlives both on land and out at sea. Waukeen has her realm here, again called the Marketplace Eternal. It surrounds Amonator's Palace of the Four Suns. If you wish to have Waukeen reside around Amonator's realm in the Great Wheel, that isn't a hard change to make either. Amonator's realm in the Outer Planes very likely is on the lawful neutral outer plane of Mechanus. I described Mechanus in Amonator's episode, however there is no information, to my knowledge, about Amonator's realm out on Mechanus. This is because he was considered dead during 2nd edition when the Divine Realms for several Forgotten Realms powers received descriptions in the Great Wheel. I would recommend using what little we have from 4th edition and making the necessary changes to fit Amonator's and Waukeen's realms onto Mechanus in the Great Wheel. Allies and Allegiances. Waukeen has no superior deity she follows or answers to. Within the Faerûnian Pantheon, she is allied with Lyra, goddess of joy and dance, Gond, god of invention and craft, and Chanticleer, god of travel and exploration. We've mentioned Lyra's and Waukeen's relationship already. Waukeen is willing to adopt and advocate the use of new inventions, which puts her in the good graces of Gond. The portfolios of Chanticleer and Waukeen work well in tandem. Outside of the Faerûnian Pantheon, Waukeen is allied with 2 members of the Dwarven Pantheon, Martha Morduin, god of explorers and travelers, and Vergadane, god of wealth and luck. She is also an ally of Soroli, a lawful good halfling goddess of hospitality and friendship. Enemies. Waukeen has one foe in the Faerûnian Pantheon, Mask, the god of thieves. Given his actions, safe to say we can include a demon lord Grast among Waukeen's enemies. Symbols. In the Faerûnian Pantheon, Waukeen's faith has one known symbol, with 2 variations. Either the side profile of a woman facing to the left stamped on a coin or disc, or the face of a woman stamped upon a golden disc or coin. Central Dogma. From Faiths and Pantheons, a 3rd edition supplement. Quote, mercantile trade is the best road to enrichment. Increasing the general prosperity buys ever greater civilization and happiness for intelligent folk worldwide, bringing people closer to the golden age that lies ahead. Destroy no trade goods, raise no restrictions to trade, and propagate no malicious rumors that could harm someone's commerce. Challenge and refute unproven rumors that could negatively impact trade when heard. Give money freely to beggars and businesses, for the more coin everyone has, the greater the urge to spend and trade rather than hoard. To worship Waukeen is to know wealth. To guard your funds is to venerate her, and to share them well seeds your future success. Call on her in trade, and she will guide you in wise commerce. The bold find gold, the careful keep it, and the timid yield it up. End quote. Presence of the Faith. Waukeen's clerics have a widespread in alignment. Chaotic neutral, neutral, lawful neutral, neutral evil, and neutral good. Waukeen is worshipped often by merchants, shopkeepers, costers, caravan guides, money changers, smugglers, thieves who combat other thieves to stop them from theft, and the wealthy. It may be thought that people who worship Waukeen in the hopes of striking it rich and being successful in business. Rather, the majority of her followers worship Waukeen in the hopes that they ward off any bad luck in their businesses and mercantile affairs. A hidden aspect of the Waukeenar faith is their clandestine and illegal methods that shape the market in their given region. Waukeenar, of course, never admit to such methods openly. In the past, accusations and charges against the faith caused this shift in their methods. The typical activities of this nature Waukeenar engage in are rumor mongering, cornering a given market, and hiring brigands to shake up things at borders between nations and kingdoms. In Var the Golden, Estegund, and Durpar, Waukeen is thought to be part of the Dogma, the world spirit that exists in all living things. Her faith, along with a few others, have many places of worship and large clergies. There are members of Waukeen's faith tied to the Iron Throne. The faith itself, however, is not. The Iron Throne is a mercantile organization who uses underhanded tactics to gain control over trade. They are heavily involved in the trade and movement of weapons. Faithful merchants make a point of setting some of their profits aside in dedication of Waukeen. In Waterdeep, at least in the 3rd edition era, a handful of faiths sell their own broadsheets out at major intersections. The Waukeenar sell their own broadsheet called the Merchant's True Friend. This broadsheet concerns itself with local investments. Hierarchy and structure of the clergy. Collectively, Waukeenar clergy are called Gold Eyes or True Traders. Common folk may call them Gold Palms. The Waukeenar use the following ranks for the clergy in ascending order. Telkar are the novices. Coin is the first rank of the confirmed clergy. Abriant, Counter, Trebar, Investor, Halanthi, Lender, Sindo, Many Coins, Grand Trebar, Spender, Grand Sindar, Overgold, the first rank of the high clergy, and then the singular head of the faith, Holy Coin. The Waukeenar faith is quite wealthy. The faith does not hoard its money. Rather, it invests correctly and makes important commercial connections and contacts that provide the faith with insight into business ventures and agreements across the continent. Coin is not used solely for business. Coin is also used to often increase the faith's reputation and popularity. During Waukeen's absence, there were some Waukeenar who held out against changing their patron to Lyra, like many of their fellows. The Lyran clergy allowed them to keep their Waukeenar titles and investments. Lyrans refer to these holdouts as coin spinners. The following information is taken from 2nd edition when class options present then are no longer represented in the modern iteration of the game. The Waukeenar clergy was split into clerics and specialty priests. These specialty priests were called Gold Eyes. 40% of the clergy were clerics and 60% were Gold Eyes. The term Gold Eye went on to represent a prestige class in 3rd edition, only to later become the sole term for Waukeenar clergy in 4th edition. I know it's confusing, this is just the way the lore shakes out. Gold Eyes in a 2nd edition capacity were called as such because they were blessed with the same gold-colored eyes that their patron goddess has. The faith has a loose hierarchy, but there is one leader of the faith that all Waukeenar follow, the Holy Coin. Interestingly, after Waukeen returned and their faith was on its way to normalcy, the succession of the next Holy Coin was on the horizon. It was known that the Holy Coin at the time was considering retirement after he set Waukeen's faith back on the right path. 5 senior priestesses were considered heavy favorites to become the Holy Coin. Collectively, these 5 were known as the 5 Furies. Each of them were rivals and were cleverly building up their reputations while undermining the others. All resided in Goldspires, the center of the Waukeenar faith found in Athkatla. Each of them were assistants in their own right to the then Holy Coin. To my knowledge, the current Holy Coin has not been named anywhere. Responsibilities and duties of the faithful. In the event of a profitable venture, worshippers of Waukeen help grow the faith by using a small tithe or percentage of that venture. This coin is not to be donated to a temple or shrine. Rather, the coin is to be invested in a business on hard times, to start a prospective opportunity, or used just for leisure. Handing coin to beggars and panhandlers is practiced to encourage further movement of coin. Waukeenar clerics are itinerant, traveling across Faerûn assisting merchants. The clerics also work internally with devoted fences, money lenders, and banks. Waukeenar clerics give 25% of their earnings to the faith. They are also expected to invest in the enterprises of fellow Waukeenar, if that enterprise seems reasonable, and invest in the enterprises of those who donate substantial amounts to the faith. Competition and the exchange of coin increases opportunities, which in turn increases the growth of civilization. Miserly and greedy guilds and consortiums often conflict with the Waukeenar, since they are not as free with their coin and wealth. The Waukeenar perspective is that if everyone has enough coin, the temptation to hoard away your own coin is lessened. If this temptation is lessened, this encourages spending and the further development of commercial industries and trade. This will lead to an uplift in society, and the Waukeenar used the term Golden Age to refer to this hypothetical utopia. Waukeenar are not to break or ruin items for sale, constrain or restrict trade in any capacity, and not deal in underhanded rumors that undermine trade relations between settlements and regions. A member of the faith is to invest their wealth somehow once every 10 days. They must then also attempt to sell or buy something every day. Armed conflicts and wars should be avoided if possible. An initial influx of trade and passing of wealth comes with war, as sides begin to prepare, arm, and defend themselves. But wars bring with them long-term destruction, hinder trade, and loss of people, who could otherwise be spending and trading. Orders and priestly bodies. There's no order of monks, clerics, or paladins in Waukeen's faith. Rather, they hire out adventuring parties who show promise or have a promising track record. The Waukeenar faith asks for 20% of the party's profits. Mercenary and adventurers are also hired out to protect Waukeenar caravans and ships. Though a temple to Waukeen in Erebor has its own mercenary company, this order is known as the Order of the Sapphire Crescent. This order is mentioned throughout the Scions of Erebor novel series, where one of the main characters, Van Bren Matrel, is a member. There was one group operating in the time of Waukeen's absence called Prophets. They likely don't exist anymore since Waukeen returned to her place in the Faerûnian Pantheon. These prophets were determined in their belief in Waukeen's return. Lyra provided this group with their spells, but she never revealed that to them. This group felt that since their ability to cast spells had not lessened any, Waukeen was still active in some capacity. They followed and maintained the Waukeenar ways, while others in the faith turned towards other faiths. Unlike their fellow Waukeenar, they were at odds with Lyrans given their strong convictions in Waukeen's status. A prophet can discern proxies or fakes from real metal and gemstones. They can almost perfectly estimate the value of an item or service. Before the term Goldeye was used to acknowledge Waukeen's clergy collectively, it was a name for Waukeenar specialty priests in 2nd edition and a prestige class in 3rd edition. As a prestige class, the Goldeyes were explained to be their own unique body within the Waukeenar faith. A Goldeye's responsibilities were no different from the rest of their faith. They were acknowledged, though, as adventurers who often went into tombs to free up forgotten coin and put it to use in society. Other Goldeyes defended vaults and financial institutions, especially those within or tied to Waukeen's faith. Appearance and dress. Waukeenar ceremonial dress is opulent in its presentation. Beneath their vestments they wear silk underclothes. Their tunics are puffy and fluted. Those who are hard of seeing wear pince-nez glasses or carry around lorgnettes. Attached to their vestments are silk ribbons. Attached to these ribbons are items they might find useful. Atop their head are golden and gem-set mitres. They wear hose or trousers according to the weather. Overtop their tunic may be a tabard. They pick and choose such things according to the season. The materials chosen in the creation of these items are of the finest quality and sport vibrant patterns. A heavy cloak wraps around the clergy member. It is a gold-lined, red cloak festooned with clasps, buttons, and decorative pieces made from precious metals. Hands are covered with white gloves. Each clergy member carries either a golden rod or staff. Some of these may be magical, but all are inset with gems and are engraved. Senior members place coronets overtop their mitres. As you can imagine, they outshine the rest of their fellows. When adventuring, Waukeenar prefer to either go about dressed like a wealthy merchant or armoured. Their armour is golden with white enamel. Realistic scenes are also painted on the armor. They travel about on magical chariots that hover just off the ground or ride atop curtain palanquins. Rituals. Waukeenar pray and meditate on their spells just before sunset. This rite starts by tossing a coin into a bowl of water or a body of water. When a devout follower of Waukeen goes to the table to strike a mercantile deal with another, they start the proceedings both with a prayer and quick ceremony done in Waukeen's name. The Waukeenar have 12 holy days throughout the year. These are known as the High Festivals. Each is dedicated to aspects of the faith. The holy days are as follows in order of the calendar of Harptos. Cold counting comfort happens on the 15th of Hammer. It celebrates the counting of coin that occurs throughout the winter. Great Weave happens on the 20th of Alturiac. It celebrates textile workers and weavers who busy themselves in the winter months. High Coin happens on the 30th of Chess. It is bombastic as the wealthy celebrate one another's accomplishments with accompanying trumpet blares. Significant wealth is donated in preparation for Spheres. Spheres happens on the 10th of Tarsak. All the wealth from High Coin is placed in glass spheres. Those glass spheres are then catapulted into the city, where they shatter. City dwellers are free to scoop up the coins and gemstones that scatter across the street. The sphere glass is prepared to not shatter into sharp shards. Samardok happens on the 12th of Myrtle. It celebrates past worshippers and substantially wealthy benefactors who helped to prop up Waukeen's faith in its early days. Brightbuckle happens on the 21st of Kythorn. A huge parade is held to celebrate the coming warm weather. The Waukeenar deck themselves out accordingly. A feast is held where all may attend. Here the Waukeenar clergy tell of the great works across Faerûn supported by Waukeen's faith. All this is done with the hopes of bringing in more adherents. Sornin occurs over the 3rd and 5th of Flame Rule. This is a formal affair until business is done. Treaties, alliances, and deals are put to paper with diplomats and envoys from across Faerûn. Even rivals and enemies are invited in the hopes that agreements of understanding come to fruition. Plenty of wine is passed about. I think plying people with wine is done in an attempt to lower their guard and inhibitions. Huldark happens on the 17th of Alesis. It is celebrated with a bountiful feast. This day is dedicated in the name of agriculture and the goods it produces. Many trees and plants are planted on Huldark. Sprindlestar happens on the 7th of Elant. Wizards and other arcanists are celebrated this day. Specifically how the spells they cast and invent prop up civilization and society. Spellcasters are hired by the Waukeenar to entertain people with spell displays. Marthoon happens on the 1st of Marpenoth. This festival recognizes the dedication and vigilance of guards and soldiers who watch over financial institutions and society as a whole. A feast is provided for those in these occupations and provided with a small gift of wealth. Each Waukeenar temple picks one such individual to retire. This individual is gifted their weight in coin and a piece of land. Tahen Tiahan happens on the 10th of Uktar. It is also called the Night of Hammers and Nails. A day-long feast is held where the works and the inventions of craft workers are celebrated and acknowledged. New inventions are demonstrated before the clergy, and the clergy may even purchase the rights to those inventions. The Waukeenar, quote, offer a room full of gold per invention purchased. The room has to be one in the inventor's house, and the church fills it to the rafters with gold coin. Workshops and stalls are closed this day so craft workers can partake in the festivities. Finally, Orbar happens on the 25th of Nightal. This is a solemn festival and one filled with stories of remembrance and reflection. The core intent at the heart of Orbar is the acknowledgement of the evil wealth can bring about. Stories are told about greedy misers, those who perished at the hands of bandits or thieves, and those who died mining or adventuring for wealth. A feast is held in dedication of renowned merchants, and the Waukeen reaffirm their duty to hunt down those who steal from the faithful. In Waterdeep, 4 separate and local festivals celebrated by Waukeen's faithful were folded into Waukeen Tide. These 4 festivals are now spread out over the 1st to 10th of Tarsak. Caravans is held on the 1st of Tarsak. This festival celebrates the coming of caravans into Waterdeep along with the change from winter to spring. This festival involves gift giving. Parents hide gifts to their children, telling them that an old merchant named Old Carvis has snuck in and hid them for children to find. Golden Night is held on the 5th of Tarsak. This festival celebrates gold and coin. Sales and services are provided at businesses and shops that keep their doors open until the morning. Some go about painted or dusted with gold or wearing coin jewelry. Guilds Meet is held on the 7th of Tarsak. Members meet in the respective guild halls, revealing policies for the coming year and celebrating work done in the past year. Some of the guilds help to put on a large gala that spills out across the city. Lay Run is celebrated on the 10th of Tarsak. This day commemorates the tale of how Waukeen punished Lara, goddess of illusions. Lara tried to cheat Waukeen in a deal. Discovering this ruse, Waukeen placed a mountain of molten gold atop Lara. On this day, guildmasters pay their annual dues. Guildmasters renew their agreements and policies with the lords of Waterdeep. Sornin, the 7th High Festival in Waukeen's faith, is celebrated on the same 3 days in Flame Rule in Waterdeep. It is celebrated for the same reasons, but for some unstated reason the Church of Lathander is involved as well. The Cleaving is an initiation and reaffirmation ritual. Layfolk looking to begin worshipping Waukeen and those who ascend in rank throughout the clergy all participate in the Cleaving. The supplicant enters the place of worship covered in dirt and moving on their knees. They also carry or tow their weight in gold. Sledges and body harnesses are allowed to accommodate the weight being pulled during the ritual. When the supplicant reaches the altar, they place all the gold on top of the altar. They turn their attention to the golden bowl on the altar. They first kiss the golden bowl, then all present begin to sing a song dedicated to Waukeen. A portion of the floor is removed. Beneath the floor is a tub or bath filled with spiced wine. A supplicant steps into the bath. The enchanted gold offering bowl hovers over and pours into this bath holy water with flecks of gold within. The Waukeen call this mixture liquid gold. The supplicant cleans themselves with this mixture, the remainder of those present still singing. The attendant clergy will then provide the individual with towels to dry off with. They also bequeath this individual with either fancy clothes for a layperson or the necessary ceremonial garb this clergy member now wears. There is a celebratory feast afterwards. The bequeathal of the Mark of the Lady is the ritual most outsiders are familiar with. Either a lay worshipper or full clergy member has done something great to uphold Waukeen's tenets. Often, this is the enrichment of those around them, both inside and outside the temple. A sash is presented to the individual. A rather large coin in the shape of a chevron is attached to the sash. Those present receive a celebratory gold coin themselves. It is possible to receive more than one of these large coins. Each of the coins is worth 450 gold pieces. They hold an enchantment that allows them to be traced, as some thieves have unfortunately discovered after the theft. Waukeen hold several holy festivals specific to their own temple. Usually they wait for such festivals to perform both the cleaving and the bestowal of the Mark of the Lady. Festivals are usually scheduled in the following way. The day starts out with hymns and song in Waukeen's name around some place they can toss in their coins. Often these places are ponds and wells. This is followed by a parade with clergy in their fine vestments and others richly dressed themselves as all move towards the temple. Mischief makers sometimes like to toss things at those in the parade. Upon entering the temple, a sermon is given. Following that, one or both the cleaving or bestowal of the mark of the lady are performed. If neither of these two are performed, a prayer is said by the highest-ranking clergy member. The festival is wrapped up with a fun-filled feast that lasts until the early hours of the morning. Since the Waukeenar are wealthy, there is plenty of alcohol consumed, and performers of all varieties are hired to entertain. General characteristics of places of worship. Temples to Waukeen look like meeting halls or guild halls. The term House of All Plenty is reserved for the major Waukeenar temples throughout the continent. Those who donate substantially to Waukeenar temples are allowed to stay in the temple's accommodations while under the watchful protection of the local clergy. Altars dedicated to Waukeen are either a stone block or wooden table. Atop their surface is a consecrated golden bowl. These bowls are enchanted. The bowl will rise up and hover above the altar proportional to the amount of wealth placed in the bowl. Much like her clergy, Waukeen's temples are opulent, sparing no expense. The architecture does vary from region to region. Some are cathedrals, others may be designed like real-world Greco-Roman temples in the classical style. Paintings, carvings, and sculpture decorate temple interiors. All are done in bright colors and feature precious metals and gems where appropriate. Or perhaps even inappropriately if you're wanting things to be gaudy rather than beautiful. While Waukeenar put their wealth on display for all to see, they are also sure to secure what has yet to be spent. Vaults and other storage spaces are secured with the best methods available. No doubt their vaults use equal amounts of magic and mechanics to achieve such security. Waukeenar temples may be rented for an event by devotees. Likely the cost is quite steep. Specific places of worship. During Waukeen's absence from the time of troubles to her return in 1371 Dale Reckoning, several of her places of worship were turned over to the worship of Lyra, or they were left abandoned. The issue, if you can call it an issue, is that we don't know what happened to several of these places once Waukeen returned. This has to do with less material published over the course of 3rd edition, 4th edition, and 5th edition that spells out exactly what temples existed in which settlements. In the case of named abandoned places, I like to think Waukeen's faith had more than enough coin to refurbish and make them active once more, while Lyran places were left as they were. Waukeenar probably saw it as an opportunity to spread their wealth around by contracting and hiring all sorts of tradespeople and artisans to construct new places of worship. That's the narrative I personally would follow. Out in the Evermoors is the ruins of Nesme. In the past, Nesme was run by the local Waukeenar clergy until her disappearance. At the center of this fortified town was their temple called the House of Fair Trade. That temple was repurposed as a boarding house for merchants. In the face ward of Calumport is the Coin Chapel. The smaller temple to Waukeen is the older of the 3 temples in Calumport. It contains strict adherence to Waukeen's faith. During Waukeen's absence, they acknowledged Lyra as regent but refused to give up their old ways. Staying in the face ward, we find the Orensalda temple complex. 2 temples are attached to one another. The largest is a temple to Waukeen, the other is a temple to Lyra. The smaller temple to Lyra was built following the time of troubles to acknowledge both goddesses. Finally, in the Konduk ward is the Konduk of the Coin Mother. This is an open-air market. The only way to know that it is dedicated to Waukeen is by the 10-foot diameter golden disc with the goddess's face upon it. As of the mention of this disc in 2nd edition, thieves have been trying to find a way to make off with it for over 300 years. The Gold Hall of the Sacraments was a former temple to Waukeen in Erlaspur. the presiding priest converted to Siric's faith. To prove his loyalty to his new god, this priest fireballed the Gold Hall. The charred husk of the temple was still standing as of its description in 2nd edition. It would appear that either a new temple was built on the same grounds or elsewhere. The 3rd edition campaign setting book mentions that the Temple of Waukeen is located in Ermlasper. The House of Built Gold is in the Moonsea city of Mulmaster. When Waukeen was absent, her faith abandoned this temple and built a new temple to Lyra following their conversion. I don't know what happened to this place after Waukeen's return. In Erebor is the Tower of Gold. This tower once was the home of an archmage before it was consecrated in Waukeen's name. With Waukeen's disappearance, her clergy abandoned the tower. The high priest here allegedly was consumed in blue fire and vanished after his mental health began to fail him after learning of Waukeen's absence. Lyrans petitioned Erebor to allow them to rededicate it to Lyra. Nothing more past this information from 2nd edition is said on the matter. The Wall of Coins can be found in the metropolis of Sodalfor. I'm not sure how to describe the Wall of Coins. The description presented in 2nd edition's Empire of the Shining Sea make it sound like a shrine within a thick defensive wall. A hollow shaft in the wall has gold sheets along all sides of its interior. Cloth of gold curtains hang around the shrine as well. The fixture of the Wall of Coins is the hovering altar. This altar is made of gold and is as big as a coffin. Since this description was given in 2nd edition, Waukeen's clergy had long since abandoned this site. The wall was still defended by the town guard. The altar still held deadly wards to attack potential thieves. Formerly, Waukeen's voice spoke out from this altar. In particular, it was thought that Waukeen would decree the leader, known as the Olanger of Sodalfor, from this altar. During her absence, of course, no voice ever manifested to name a successor to the aging leader. The center of Waukeenar worship is Gold Spires. Gold Spires is located just outside the Omnian metropolis of Athkatla. Gold Spires overlooks the city on a crag along the coastline. Gold Spires is no temple. Rather, it is a large temple complex in the form of a fortified castle abbey. Given the name, the spires here are gilded and conical. Inside the walls of Gold Spires are 15 different buildings. Gold Spires is like a settlement on its own with many permanent residents living here, even outside the clergy. Some of the buildings outside those used by the faith are the dance hall and a building called the Hospitality House, where galas are held. In total, there are roughly 1,000 devoted lay people, 150 lesser to middling clergy members, then 6 senior clergy members, one of which is the Holy Coin, a pontiff of the Waukeenar faith. Gold Spires runs and operates a resort on Akarov's Bay within Lake Esmel. The bay itself was named after a now deceased Waukeenar priest who discovered the beneficial effects of the mineral springs at the location where the resort now stands. I am unsure if this resort is within the resort community known as the Scimitar or not. In either case, the Scimitar is also located along Akarov's Bay for the same reason. Gold Spires has a minority ownership in the community and leaves its management to the wealthy family who has majority ownership. In general, Waukeen is the deity with the largest amount of worship throughout Om, given the importance placed on mercantile activities in this nation. You will see the image of Waukeen hanging from signs and placed upon doors all throughout Athkatla. After all, Athkatla is called the City of Coin. At the center of Athkatla is Waukeen's promenade, or promenade. This massive oval-shaped open market has almost anything and everything, save magical and or illegal items from across Faerûn for sale. Contacts still can be made on the side to arrange for shady deals to be made elsewhere. Staying in Om, we arrive at a pilgrimage site for Waukeen's faithful. To the east of Gambitin are 5 large marble slabs which are all different shapes and rest at different angles from each other. The site is called either 5 silvers or 5 coins. If you look from a higher vantage point down upon this site, when the rays from the rising sun shine down, the stone reflects the light and appears to be 5 coins. Riatavin is home to the Lodge of Coins, the local Waukeen temple. This temple's central spire has a 12-foot diameter golden coin, Waukeen's holy symbol, hovering a few feet right above it. This massive coin doubles as a weather vane. Our last location in is Trade Meet. In 920 Dale Reckoning on Shield Meet, Waukeen appeared at this crossroads town. She ushered in something called the Merchant's Peace here. As the story goes, Waukeen wandered the market in Trade Meet and was angered by the practices on display. She found the high merchant in charge and turned his hands to gold. From there, she broke off each of his fingers and gave them to whom he had wronged. The Merchant's Peace is a formal agreement shared by all merchants to be honest with one another and come to understand one another fully before a deal or plan is struck, if they are in Trade Meet. They are not magically compelled to do this. They are wary of what may befall them should they break the Merchant's Peace, which I will touch on in a bit. In the center of Trade Meet is the large shrine dedicated to Waukeen. This shrine is called Waukeen's Circle. The form of the shrine is 7 round stone slabs standing up on their respective edges. These stones predate their dedication as a shrine. This circle was the center of the first market in Trade Meet when the settlement was founded. The shrine is said to stand on the spot where Waukeen appeared all those years ago. The legend goes that if any merchant breaches the Merchant's Peace, one of the 7 circles will crack, or that merchant will die a terrible death. It would appear everyone since 920 Dale Reckoning has kept their word and not bothered to challenge the legend. Or it is just that, a legend that holds no weight. But that's up to you as a dungeon master to decide. Throughout the region called the Vast, in north-central Faerûn, Waukeen, along with Tempest and Timor, are venerated widely. You can find temples to all these gods in the region's cities, and shrines are found in several places as well. Not a place of worship, but still a place of note for Waukeen is the legend told in the village of Orlimin. Outside the village are rolling highlands to the south. A high priest of Waukeen was buried out in the highlands long ago. The high priest was buried standing up, as was the custom. Beneath their feet were many gold bars. They wear rich vestments, and each finger bears a ring with inlaid gemstones. This single grave's treasures are said to be worth 60,000 gold pieces, if not more. Treasure seekers have often tried their hand at finding this grave to no success. Efforts increased while Waukeen was absent following the time of troubles. Once grave markers stood to mark this particular grave, but the markers were inlaid with gold and gems, so they were stolen. Shir Talar, aka the Shining City by the Sea, is the capital city of Lapalia. Each settlement in Lapalia has a civic deity. Shir Talar's is Waukeen's. Her temple here is known as the Gilt House of Gleaming Coins. This is a rich city because of Shir Talar's prominence as a major trade port. Many buildings featured gold and silver domes or decoration. The Gilt House of Gleaming Coins is second only to the Overking's own palace in opulence. Many Coins' house is a shrine to Waukeen in Marsember. During her absence, it was turned into a money-changing house. Now, no mention of it being made into a shrine once again is presented in any official books. Rather, the following information comes from over on the Candlekeep forums from Ed Greenwood in 2008. Many Coins is a stopover location for merchants and traders. Much like an inn, its antechamber is specifically for conducting business. The clergy live on the upper floors of this 4-storied house. Many Coins is a place of education for clergy, where novices come to be trained and full members learn about business and trade. Many Coins has a secret service where the clergy will hide away small items should the steep price be paid. There's a temple to Waukeen with no specific name in Erebar. It is the base of operations for the Order of the Sapphire Crescent Mercenary Company, run and supported by the temple. Named temples to Waukeen include the House of Coins in Elversalt and the Hall of Diamonds in Yahan. Unnamed temples to Waukeen can be found in Bazanter and Tiratoros in Thay, Raven's Bluff. There are then temples to Waukeen across Chesenta. I found mention of ones in both Reth and Luftchek. From there, temples can be found also in Esmel Terran, Omphale, but this one is in disuse, and then Telflam. Unnamed shrines to Waukeen can be found in Halintar, though it was abandoned during her absence, Tolman, Yeshpek, Arabel, Baldur's Gate, Burdusk, which during her absence was converted to a homeless shelter, Kalant, Elturel, Serloon, Selgaunt, Tantris, Hillsfar, which allegedly has many small shrines dedicated to Waukeen, Everlund, Suzail, Ulfmir, and Holtail. There is a named shrine to Waukeen called the Gold Coin House in Asbraven, but it was burnt down and left abandoned. Character options. For 2nd edition, the Gold Eye Specialty Priest can be found in Face Avatars. The Prophet Priest variant can be found in Warriors and Priests of the Realms. For 3rd edition, the Gold Eye Prestige class can be found in Face and Pantheons. For 4th edition, Waukeen Silver Tongue, a Channel of Divinity class feature, can be found in Forgotten Realms Player's Guide. The following is a custom background for someone deeply involved in Waukeen's faith, as an acolyte or otherwise, could use in a 5th edition game. For your 2 skill proficiencies, 2 of Insight, Persuasion, or Investigation. For your language or tool proficiencies, 1 Artisan's tool of your choice and 1 language of your choice. For your equipment, there's the Acolytes, Guild Artisan, or Guild Merchant, all from the Player's Handbook. For your ribbon feature, there's the Acolytes, Shelter of the Faithful, or Guild Artisans, Guild Membership, both from the Player's Handbook. Next is just a list of subclasses I think would be appropriate for NPC or PC to take if they're a worshipper of Waukeen. For the Artificer, there's the Alchemist, both from Eberron, Rising from the Last War, and Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, and the Armorer, which is only found in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. For the Bard, there's the College of Lore from the Player's Handbook. For the College, there is both the Knowledge and Trickery domain from the Player's Handbook. For the Rogue, there's the Thief from the Player's Handbook, then the Mastermind from Xanathar's Guide to Everything. For the Sorcerer, there's the Divine Soul Sorcerer from Xanathar's Guide to Everything. Finally, for the Wizard, there's the School of Abjuration from the Player's Handbook. Dungeon Master options. First, I'd like to touch on monsters available in official 5th edition sources that either serve Waukeen or her faith directly. From the Monster Manual, there's the Acolyte, Animated Armor, Spectator, Noble, Priest, Lion, and Cat. From Volo's Guide to Monsters, there's the Abjurer, Wizard, and Bard, both of which have revised stat blocks in Mordenkainen Presents Monsters of the Multiverse. From Mort's Planar Parade, which is found in the Planescape box set that recently came out, there's the Faerûmac Romani. Romani only recently were updated for 5th edition. A quick overview of them is that they are all about preserving the balance of the Outer Planes. Like some other Outer Planar creatures, they have a hierarchy. At the top are the Arumak Romani. Faerûmac Romani are the Foot Soldiers. They have received a visual redesign for 5th edition's Planescape looking far more like metallic automatons. The Plumac Romani were not updated for 5th edition. Their art from 2nd edition's Planescape shows them looking like humans with a metallic sheen to their skin. They are further described in 2nd edition's Monstrous Compendium Planescape Appendix 2. Plumacs are like the common folk among the Romani. From Mythic Odysseys of Theros is the Goldforged Sentinel. From Hoard of the Dragon Queen, the Golden Stag. From Dungeon of the Mad Mage, Animated Jade Serpent, Crystal Golem, and Crystal Battle Axe. From Fizzman's Treasury of Dragons, there's the Horde Mimic, Horde Scarab, and Swarm of Horde Scarabs. From Candlekeep Mysteries, there's the Animated Chain Library and Sapphire Sentinel. Finally, from Wild Beyond the Witchlight, there's the Glass Pegasus and Glasswork Golem. Following that, there's a monster tied to Waukeen's faith that has not been updated for 5th edition sources. The Lock Lurker is a tiny creature that resembles a coin. The majority of them resemble copper coins, while gold and silver ones exist in smaller numbers. On the lurker's bottom side are its tiny, thin legs that retract into its coin-shaped body. In the center of its bottom side is its circular smooth with sharp teeth. A stinger comes off its backside, but the stinger is often not seen by creatures on the prime material. Rather, this potentially 1-foot-long stinger exists primarily on the ethereal plane. Lurkers know well enough to hide among coins to strike a possible target and steal away with a quick bite of flesh. A lock lurker will strike out with its stinger at a target. When the stinger strikes in such a way, it becomes visible to the victim on the prime material. The poison injected by the stinger is quite the potent paralysis venom. For that reason, lock lurkers are placed in and around locks and chests and doors to fend off thieves. Assassins also place lurkers in various locations, like under an ink pot or inside of a boot, for the lurker to then inject their paralysis poison into a target. The assassin moves in to finish off the target accordingly. The Lock Lurker has a 2nd edition stat block and further information in Monstrous Compendium Annual Volume 1 and Forgotten Realms Campaign Setting box set. To round out the Dungeon Master section, the following are some thematically appropriate magic items from official 5th edition sources I feel the Faith of Waukeen may have access to. From the Dungeon Master's Guide: Brooch of Shielding, Carpet of Flying, Cloak of Protection, Elemental Gems, Eyes of Minute Seeing, Lion's Figurine of Wondrous Power, Gem of Brightness, Gem of Seeing, Glamoured Studded Leather, Helm of Brilliance, Helm of Comprehending Languages, Bag of Holding, Heward's Handy Haversack, Ioun Stones, Portable Hole, Robe of Useful Items, and Sending Stones. From Explorer's Guide to Wildmount, Coin of Delving, and Goggles of Object Reading. From Eberron Rising from the Last War, a reworked key charm, and Shift Weave. From the Book of Many Things, Ring of Puzzler's Wit. From Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, +1 to +3 Amulets of the Devout. Finally, from Xathar's Guide to Everything, Armor of Gleaming, Cloak of Billowing, and Cloak of Many Fashions. Alright, thank you for listening to Religion in the Realms. If you're interested in keeping up with the release of future episodes, you can follow the podcast Twitter account at Realms Religion. These episodes are uploaded to YouTube. Audio versions of the podcast can be found on iTunes, Spotify, and Google Play Podcasts. For those interested, I have posted a link in the episode description to a Discord server I have set up. For audio listeners, you can find the link to the invite pinned on the podcast Twitter page. This is the end of the series on the Faerûnian Pantheon for now. I put out my first episode on the Faerûnian Pantheon in September 2018. The intention back then, and still now, was to cover the gods listed in the Faerûnian Pantheon in Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide. I'm all too aware that list is missing gods that are very much alive and active. Covering the Faerûnian Pantheon has been both a great and seemingly unending task. I do think it is time for me to move on to a new Pantheon after 5+ years and putting out episodes on these 48 gods. That isn't to say I won't come back and cover gods I have not touched on in the Faerûnian Pantheon. I would be remiss if I didn't cover Larue or Moander, for example. Just don't expect a visit to Faerûnian Pantheon anytime soon. So that leaves me with a question for you. Which Pantheon do you want me to cover next? If you look in the episode description, there should be a link to a publicly available Google form. This should be the case both on your podcast platform of choice, as well if you're watching or listening to the episode on YouTube. Either way, I will also post a link on the Twitter page for the podcast. All I need from you is to select one of the following pantheons: the Elven Pantheon, the Dwarven Pantheon, the Gnomish Pantheon, the Orcish Pantheon, or the Halfling Pantheon. My preference is to cover the Dwarven Pantheon, but that's because dwarves are my favorite race or ancestry. However, I love the idea of covering any of these 5 pantheons, so please pick the pantheon you want to see covered next. This form will be up for a month starting the day Waukeen's episode goes live, after which I will announce which pantheon will be covered next. In the interim, I will be revisiting Clergy, the chaotic good drow goddess of song, moonlight, and dance for the next episode. Clergy initially was not a favorite of mine. I really didn't have a favorite Faerûnian god. Rather, she was the reason why I started the podcast in the first place. A good deity that exists in the drow pantheon? What's that all about? She, of all the past deities I've covered, deserves an updated and revised episode. Until next time, may Tymora look kindly upon your dice rolls, Helm protect you, and Lathander light your path. Music for this episode: Village Consort by Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.com, licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0.